and they hope to do so at Kyle Field at Texas A&M coming up on September 17th. We got our buddy Andrew Hattersley from Gig'em 247 Sports here. So, Andrew, this is Cam Underwood. He runs SB Nation's State of the U there on the Miami platform. Appreciate you
Cam,
being
how you
here,
doing?
Andrew.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping by.
Nice to meet you.
So, Andrew, I'm going to get us started, and then I will let Cam cut loose on the Miami Texas A&M talk. Just get some Miami fans familiar with where Texas A&M stands in regards to, we saw a season that finished at 8-4, losing a starting quarterback early in the season. That's a quarterback battle that's ensuing right now and will continue through August. And obviously a lot of hype surrounding the program, considering the recruiting class, #1 in the country in 2022, and the expectations that have been placed to Jimbo Fisher, pouring all that money at his feet, and him coming into his 5th season, I believe. So just set us up with the deal with the Aggies.
Yeah, so one of the priorities this offseason was to solidify the quarterback room. Obviously, when Haynes King went down against Colorado last year, the offense was, to be honest, just kind of a mess the rest of the year. Obviously, their best game that they played was against Alabama, but outside of that, it was just, it was inconsistency, getting off the slow starts. And so injuries and kind of inexperience at the quarterback position set them back last year. This year, they've got 3 starters back: Ruben Fothery, Bryce Foster, and Layden Robinson, who was a little bit banged up last year, and so he's got to stay a little more healthy. If there was an issue along the offensive line, it was most certainly at the left tackle spot. A&M tried to bring in Jameer Johnson from Tennessee, and it was just kind of a disaster for most of the year. There's kind of the argument between bringing in a veteran offensive lineman that has experience and really struggling. And so, A&M is looking at Trey Zoom there and kind of left tackle, and then that guard spot to replace Kenyon Green is going to obviously be the big one. They've got a lot of guys to choose from. Aki Ogunbiyi was a guy that saw some playing time last year, and would be an option, but I think they're just going to let that kind of play out. Jordan Spasovich Moko is a guy from Australia who used to be a rugby player and has a tremendous amount of strength. But the question is, how quickly can he pick up the game? How quickly can he pick up in pass blocking? And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're bringing a lot of experience back in the secondary, obviously with Damani Richardson, Antonio Johnson, Tyree Chappelle played a lot as a freshman. But the big question will just be, how quickly can the defensive line get up to speed, and can they get better linebacker play? Because that was definitely a weakness last year, especially defending the run. And so those are kind of the question marks. They've obviously got a lot of talent coming in. There's been a lot of talk about the recruiting class, but I think it'll ultimately be up to the guys that are already on campus to step in and fill that void, because it's a lot to ask of incoming freshmen to step right in and replace kind of the production that they had last year.
Cam, anything you've got in regards to this matchup? And, obviously we're going to see a couple games out of each team before we get there, but this is the crowning jewel of the non-conference season, not just for Miami and Texas A&M, but one of the best games or matchups in college football this year.
No, absolutely it is. My thing is, first of all, congratulations on money well spent for that recruiting class. Incredible. Well done.
Well, I haven't heard anything about that of late. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was born at night, but not last night. Come on now. And hey, look, and that's the lay of the land. I'm not even saying that like to call y'all out. Like, hey, you did what needed to be done. What I will say or ask is this. So I know you mentioned solidifying the quarterback room. Where do you think that that's going to go? With, you got Max Johnson on there. You got Haynes King coming back. I know Calzada's not there anymore, is he?
No, he transferred to Auburn. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, you got at least 2 guys with starting experience and other talent in there. Which way do you think it's going to shake?
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be really interesting. I don't think anything is anything close to settled, and one of the reasons for that is, truthfully, I don't think either guy did anything in the spring game. really distinguish themselves. Neither guy looked terribly good, to be honest with you. And I know Jimbo kind of pointed to the wind that was kind of present in Kyle Field that day, but I don't think it necessarily kind of makes anybody feel better about the quarterback position. Haynes King, look, I think they wanted to bring in experience this offseason, and say what you will about Max Johnson, and if you talk to LSU fans, they feel like they're going to upgrade at the position as well. But playing in the SEC last year, he had 27 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and completed just over 60% of his passes. I feel like he brings experience playing in the league, playing at kind of a high level. And so I think that experience ultimately in the end is going to pay off. It's kind of a balance on where A&M wants to go. Do you want to go with a guy that's got some legs and speed and Haynes King, or do you want to go with a guy who, is going to make sound decisions, can move the offense? And I think that's where ultimately Max Johnson will end up. I've gotten back and forth on this. I think ultimately Max Johnson maybe brings a little bit more stability to the position. He may not bring more upside, but he brings at least consistency and stability. And so I think there's a reason that they brought him in, and I think ultimately he's going to end up winning the job.
Okay. And both of those guys are guys that Miami recruited, obviously. Johnson being a Rick nephew, and Haynes King when we're just, being national with our recruiting. But that leads me to my next question, circling back in a serious way about recruiting. So you've had some success down here, has Texas A&M, even in this last class, stealing Shamar Stewart out from underneath us, which was kind of Manny Diaz's fault because Manny Diaz was that guy.
Yeah.
Donnell Harris before that, another 4-star, 5-star guy, another couple of guys. So where do you think Florida, and specifically South Florida, fits in the recruiting paradigm for A&M moving forward?
Yeah, so I think, and this to your point, I think this is one of the things that when people kind of look at A&M, and Mark, I know we talked about this last week actually. When people kind of look at recruiting and that's kind of my area of expertise. When I talked to people last year, kind of right leading up to signing day, I know everybody on the A&M side kind of thought that Shamar Stewart was a done deal. For me, when I talked to people, they kind of talked about proximity to home, and that's why I think that Miami's going to be a real factor moving forward in recruiting. I think the truth of the matter is Florida State, and Miami have been down for the last couple of years, and that's kind of opened up the state for people to take advantage of it. And I think there's been a lot of recruitments. Amari Daniels is a good example of a guy that was kind of right on the fence between, do I want to stay home with Miami or do I want to go out of state?
He didn't have a committable offer from Miami.
Oh, he didn't? Okay. So
he was in the same class as Jalen Knighton and Don Chaney and Henry Parrish were all three on our roster.
But that's a guy that I think in the future, like Yokeith Brown's another example of a guy that kind of felt like, was he what he was weighing, staying close to home or going out of state. And so, I think A&M is going to continue to target Florida. Jimbo Fisher obviously has a lot of ties down there. And I do think it's going to be more difficult than it maybe has been in the past. And they might have to kind of go towards the Midwest and all that, because Mario Cristobal is probably the best recruiter that's been down there in quite a while. And so I think that state's going to get more difficult to maybe get talent out of. You look at examples in this class, like a guy like Jalen Brown. They made him an immediate priority. And I think right now Miami's been able to get him on campus a ton of times. The examples go on and on. But I think A&M is going to continue taking their shots. And if they can get, this class, if they can get a Hakeem Williams and they can maybe get a couple others, I think they'll feel pretty good about it and kind of try to lock down the state and maybe go into other areas. That's the thing, is they kind of go all over the country, and they'll go to the Northwest, they'll go to the Midwest, and wherever they feel like they can kind of get talent. And so, but I do think the state of Florida with the, specifically Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal is going to get harder. I'm not really sure Florida State's going to be as much of a factor until they kind of get somebody in there as well.
Right. So you talked about linebacker play being something that you could have or see development from with the Aggies. That's a main growth area for Miami as well. What do you think that, there's actually two positions on defense that are concerning for Miami at this point in my mind. That'd be linebacker and cornerback, so exterior defensive back. How do you think that would play against A&M? Like, are you guys built from a talent perspective? I know that you're built to take advantage of those things, but do you have the actual guys and the scheme to maybe take advantage of maybe some weaknesses at linebacker and corner right now?
So right now it's going to be interesting. I would say the linebacker part would be probably more of a concern, to be honest with you, because if you're looking at A&M's receiver position, I don't think that's been really an area of strength. Now, Evan Stewart is a guy that I've seen a lot being up in the Dallas area, and is a guy that I think is going to be a stud. I think he's gonna be really, really good. Whether it's first year, second year, he's just a guy that's naturally gifted. Do I think in the first game that he plays against a Power 5 opponent that he's going to give Miami as much problems? Probably a play here or there, but I think A&M's receiver core has still got a lot of question marks. Linebacker wise, I do think that's somewhere that A&M will, because A&M first and foremost is a running back. They're going to be a run first offense, and it's going to start with Devon Achane. And he's a guy that kind of challenges you in open space. He challenges you when it comes to tackling. He's a potential Olympic athlete down the line in terms of sprinting. I think this year he's gotten to the 10-1s, low 10-1s, low 10s, and so in the 100-meter. And so he's a gifted athlete. And then they're going to bring guys like Anais Smith out of the backfield. Amari Daniels will come out of the backfield. And so if there was an area I feel like A&M was going to exploit, it would probably be at the linebacker spot. I think Miami can probably get away with kind of mediocre cornerback play in this game and be all right.
Okay. Why y'all yell so much? Or why did they yell? Like, and
it's just kind of the military deal.
As a vocalist right now, I went to Miami on a partial vocal scholarship. I've been a musician. I've been a singer my entire life. It always I cannot get my mind around not y'all, but the Texas A&M students go to the stadium to practice yelling at midnight and then come back and yell all the time. Like, I don't get that one. Yeah,
the passion, and you can feel it in every way. And I know I don't think anybody denies the jokes that are out there, and everybody kind of sees it. But there's just so much passion around the program. I mean, whether it's whoever they're playing, they will fill that stadium out over 100,000 plus every single time. I mean, they literally live for these weekends in the fall, and they've got kind of a military background to the school. They've got the corps and all that, and so it's just kind of a loud bunch. It's just kind of how they've always been. They're, for those that are on message boards, they seem to be the most kind of vocal and combative sometimes, and kind of get in there and defend themselves. It's just kind of who they are, but I think ultimately they're just kind of passionate about the program. They live and breathe. I mean, when guys commit at 2 a.m. in the morning, there's floods of people up there at 2 a.m. in the morning to find out who's committing and recruiting stuff. And I just think there's a whole lot of excitement, and there's a whole lot of excitement when Jimbo Fisher's around there. But the atmosphere on the program, I mean, it's certainly loud, and they're not quiet the entire game. But on the yell practice, I think the other part about it is there's something about Aggies just love to be together. There's kind of that Aggie network and all that they talk about. And so for them to come together on a Friday night, they love it. And it's a recruiting event. They bring recruits to it and say, look at the passion you're going to play in front of on a nightly basis. They have guys come in early on visits. And it is a real selling point about the program. Whether they're down or good, they get behind their team.
Interesting. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about Miami and A&M.
Yeah.
Apart from this game, wait, y'all are in the West, so y'all play Alabama then. Okay,
we play Alabama.
Let me ask you a different question because I was thinking of the West. East. So let me just go a different way there, because I've seen some people talking about, the wins and how Miami is allergic to 10 wins because we have been allergic to 10 wins. And, the past 20 years and whatnot. What do you believe is a realistic expectation for the record for Texas A&M this year?
I think kind of in the 9 to 10 win range, to be honest. I think last year, the 8-4 record could have been easily. You are what your record says you are, right? Like there was, I think, some what felt like some missed opportunities. It felt like in that Arkansas game, being at that game, despite how poorly they played, didn't have an offensive touchdown until the second half. They still had the ball early in the fourth quarter with a chance to go ahead, and then Zach Calzada throws one off a defender's helmet. That's the end of that drive. Arkansas goes into score, and the game's over. So that game was won. You look at the Ole Miss game, had the ball with a chance to go ahead, despite how poorly they played offensively. Zach Calzada throws a pick inside the 20-yard line. You kind of get the theme, and then A&M certainly felt like they should have won the LSU game as well against an undermanned LSU team. So I think 9 to 10 wins, depending on how well the defense plays, how quickly the defense kind of comes together. I think they feel better about the offensive line this year. Having 3 starters back is obviously a lot more helpful than losing 4 starters and then going through injuries and all that sort of stuff. And I think Jimbo Fisher really feels better about the quarterback position. Do I think they have the ability to go into Tuscaloosa and win in Tuscaloosa? No. I think that's going to be a tough one. Is there probably a loss somewhere on the schedule around that? Yeah, probably. And so I think the 9 to 10 win range is probably a fair. Now, whether that's what it ends up being with being in the SEC West, we'll see. But I think that's kind of a realistic target goal. And I think Miami can kind of get into the 8-9 win as well with Van Dyke back, and I think they're going to be a team that's a lot harder to play in the second half of the year than probably the first when they kind of get ththings rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need to, for Miami, centering ourselves, have the same kind of expectation. I mean, 8-4 is not acceptable, to be perfectly honest. Changing the staff like we did, changing the roster like we did, and I know that there's volatility with bringing in, mercenaries, if people want to call that, portal players, but then basing a lot of the team along those, or underneath the talents and production of those guys, like Akeem Mesdor and Jake Lichtenstein and the Moultrie kid. Those are 3 guys who are going to be top of the rotation at defensive line. So I get that there can be some concerns with that, but yeah, I mean, I think that 8-4 is unacceptable for us, like I think it would be unacceptable, for most people out in Aggie land if that were to be the record again.
Yeah, if they're 8-4 again, I think there'll probably be some frustration, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, and I think rightfully so. And if we're 8-4, I think that would be rightful frustration because, again, we play Clemson and we play y'all. There's no other team who's as talented. Well, Carolina, they've been recruiting pretty well, and we slid off a little bit. So there's 2.5 teams who are as talented as we are on our schedule this year. Losing 4 games.
Disappointing, Cam, but I would say this: understandable on the Miami side. Miami goes 8-4. It's Mario Cristobal's first year. Yeah. He's just getting started versus Jimbo Fisher. They dumped $75 million in his lap. It's a 5th season. Mm-hmm. You better start delivering.
I can say it's understandable. I can still not like it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll even say I expect Miami to do better than that. Of course, yes. But it's still, you're going to have much more leniency for a coach in his first year versus, okay, Jimbo, it is time. We see the recruiting classes and we see all this, but man, it is time to deliver.
Yeah.
And if I can jump in here with a question, I think because of what I do here, I can say this with a lot of certainty because I see it all over the place. Fan bases are typically, especially when they're stepping outside a conference, most of the fan base, and this speaks to any fan base, is very ignorant of the other team, their culture, their program, their history, and largely underestimates them, unless it's Alabama coming to town, let's say. Well, in Texas A&M situation, we know, Andrew, that even before the occurrences of last week, that Alabama game has been like, it can't be red lettered any more than it is. And then because of the division being the best in college football, there's no end to LSU, Arkansas, all the big games that you've got to play, that Texas A&M has to play. How are Aggie fans looking at this Miami matchup? Is there a certain take that they're giving this matchup already, or is it too early to tell?
In a lot of ways, and I think this has to do with just the way the rest of the schedule sets up, sort of as a must-win for a lot of reasons. One, because obviously at home in a non-conference game, feel like they should win that game, and but the other part of it is Miami is the last home game that A&M will play from September 17th to October 29th. That's the next time they'll be back at Kyle Field. And so, I think
neutral site game at Arkansas.
There's a neutral,
so they go neutral site
to Arkansas, on the road to Mississippi State, on the road to Alabama, bye week, on the road to South Carolina. And so, if you're A&M and you were to drop this game, and then you're heading on the road for a neutral site game against Arkansas, which is not going to be easy. Obviously lost that last year. Heading to Mississippi State, heading to Alabama, and heading to South Carolina, who's probably going to be a much more difficult game than they've been in the past. This kind of has like sort of and coming home to play Ole Miss in Florida, which is certainly not going to be easy. And so looking at a Miami game, an early season game at Kyle Field before the SEC play gets underway, with the expectations we just talked about with A&M, I think there's a feeling that, Adam must win is kind of an overused term at times, but it's an extremely important game for that reason to be heading on the road for basically 5 weeks.
So, Andrew, what I'm getting at when I ask that question, and it's more of a Miami lean to the question, is, and it might be too early to ask this, are Aggie fans, I know the knowledgeable college football fan knows, okay, Miami's been down, but they're loaded with talent. Mario Cristobal's coming. This is a dangerous opponent. But that's the rare fan of any fan base. Most Texas A&M fans, do you think that they're looking at this, and again, it might be a little too early on the message boards to tell, as this is Miami. This is a brand, 5 national championships. This is Miami coming to town. This is a big deal. This is a big game. Or are they looking at it as Miami hasn't been any good for 15 years, so big deal. We're better than them. This isn't a big game.
I think a lot of A&M fans kind of feel like the game going to Miami the next year will be harder than this one will be. I think that's a bit of a mistake, because I think when you have a guy coming back for his second year, if Tyler Van Dyke were to take another step, I think this game is going to be a lot closer than probably a lot of A&M fans would like or expect. From the A&M fan base, I think they feel like the return game is going to be a lot tougher heading into Mario Cristobal's second year than this one will be. And being at home helps. If this game was on the road, I think they would kind of feel like this would be a bit more of a toss-up. But I think A&M feels at home like they should win this game.
All right. Anything else, Cam?
No, that's some really good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming.
Looking forward to it. But I do think Miami's on the rise. I know Mark knows this, but I cover a lot of recruiting. I do think Miami fans have a lot more to be excited about. Take care of my guy Gabby Urrutia down there. I talk to him all the time.
Look, you're talking to the guy who gave Gabby his first break. Okay.
That was a smart decision. Gabby.
Hey, I can look. If I don't know anything else, I can identify talent. And there's a couple of guys who work with 247. There's some guys around. No. Like, I saw that. I was like, this guy is going to be a star. And I was, we were blessed to have him for 2 full seasons before he, moved along, graduated, got full time. But no, he's a great guy and everything.
Easy.
The last parting shot I wanted to ask is, if you've been following me on Twitter for any time, and I know I'm talking more to the fans who are watching here than yourself. First of all, I used to work at Miramar High School. So like when Geno Smith was there, all those guys, Ivan McCartney,
Yeah.
like, you know, did all the announcing, all those kind of things. But we took a trip when I was a Patriot out to DeSoto, Texas, and I hate them because they bitched out and they didn't come on the return trip to South Florida. So that was just for me to say that DeSoto sucks and they're soft and they're punks. You know, they're yellow bellied, you know, people, and they do not hold up their word. But I want to ask you, so what are some of your favorite or like the notable programs around Texas that, you know, because we get a lot of recruiting questions here, you know, and I know that there's some, I'm not going to name any just to let you, but yeah, what are some of the notable programs in Texas, maybe, you know, in the Houston area, the Dallas area, that people who follow recruiting should know about?
Yeah, so I do have to go. That's funny you say that, because my favorite. There's always a running joke. I'm always at DeSoto because the funny enough, the recruiting coordinator that's there, Coach Sweeney, knows, like, you know, I had just to tell people, you know, what you know, how I think and I think you'll agree with this, you know, any program that kind of opens their door to you is always kind of, you know, good in your book. Last year I struggled to get a credential to go up to Denton Ryan, which is another program I really enjoy. I enjoy Denton Ryan and Denton Geyer. I texted Coach Sweeney the day of the game. Coach Sweeney, I'm, you know, looking for a game. Can I come to your game and see you? He had a credential and some brisket and sausage waiting there for me, and you know, kind of day of the game. And I was like, this man knows how to take care of media. He's got his food there ready to go, and you know, kind of has a roster with years, heights, weights, offers, Twitter, social media, and so you know, he makes our life, you know, very easy.
Nice.
Down in Marlin is another one that I really appreciate, and one that I've had kind of the fortune to go to. Darian Gillette, that's home to Darian Gillette, and I know he's a guy that's really high on Marlin. That's another guy, Charles Hitchens, that I've got to know, and is really trying to do a lot of great work down in the Marlin area. I don't know that their program's necessarily built up yet, but coaching staff is really hospitable down there when we go to basketball games and things like that, and so. Those are definitely two that, and then another one is Courtney Allen up at Mesquite Horn is a guy that he's a really good dude and kind of opens the doors up as well. Any coach that's willing to open up the doors, and I felt this year like a lot more is starting to kind of understand that. The more we can come out to practice and things like that, the more we can help kids out and kind of get to see them. And Mark knows I've been out to see probably 25, 30 schools this year, and I feel like everyone I've run across, I've walked out thinking, man, they were really welcoming and really nice. So it's been a lot of fun. But DeSoto Coach Sweeney is pretty good.
Nah, they're soft.
Hopefully
he's
kind of turned it around a little bit.
They're soft. They do. Look, they won in overtime because Devontae Mathis was barely out the back of the end zone on a 2-point conversion. You know, great game and everything. Looking forward to getting on the microphone and calling that game the next year, and then they punked out. So no, I do not let an opportunity to needle them about that bye. And I know that they take umbrage. I've even had some of their coaches, you know, tweet at me and everything, but they're soft. But hey,
I'll have to talk to Coach Sweeney about that next
hook
time.
you up. They got that brisket and that sausage, and you know, having my mother lives out in Trophy Club, so just north of Grapevine, or one town over from South Lake. So yeah, you know, knowing how that barbecue can be out there, I know that's a very
no, they cook it right on the grill, right next to the field, so they get you all squared away.
Nothing better than that.
What I was trying to process out of that is that Texas high school football must just be at another level. That a guy from 247 Sports has hard time getting a credential to a game.
Yeah, it's a difficult. Yeah, it's kind of a region that is, you know, I don't want to call the guy, but it's they notoriously is easier to go there during the off season than during the season because their credentialing process is kind of a bit of a mess.
Hey, I've seen the same thing down here. Tried to go to the game with Andrew Ivins a couple of years ago, and
and Andrew Ivins is another one.
It wasn't nefarious, but we had to alter the game plan because just trying to get a credential was just met with an absolute no. So
I never got a response to that. I never got a response to that credential. So coming back on the Wednesday morning, Coach Sweeney, or Friday morning, Coach Sweeney kind of helped me out.
Got you.
Okay, that's a new one on me.